Devolution, it's long been Andy Burnham's plan to rewire Britain, power out of Westminster, coming to a town near you, if you live in England, that is. He's already done it with his own office, having opened number 10 North. Now he wants regions to have control over things like transport, building new housing and creating opportunities for young people. He was in Sheffield today at a community centre, so was the Chancellor. Areas like South Yorkshire would be able to use a chunk of their own income tax and business rates, as well as borrowing powers, to then spend however they like. No more begging bowls to Westminster, as they put it.
Well, I'll set out further details about this new devolution plan in the budget, and that will be about giving greater powers to local leaders, because they know what will make the biggest difference in their area. They know what businesses need to grow, and they know what is needed for their people to have greater opportunities.
And others agree with the government that centralisation means we've missed out on growth.
Today's announcement is a big step in the right direction in giving local areas those freedoms and also giving them the benefits when they do well. This is something that's done all over the world. You know, we are the exception by having such a centralised country. European countries have fiscal devolution, and they have a correction mechanism that allows areas that are going to struggle in terms of growth to make sure they get some revenue to deliver the services they need.
The government looks to Europe for examples and the G7. It would be very naive to think that devolution is a panacea, though. They have their own problems, right?
It's not going to solve everything. You're absolutely right, it's not. But there is strong evidence that countries with greater fiscal devolution have better growth and fairer growth.
But there are still many questions here, mostly the financial specifics. The exact portion of taxes any area would receive won't be clear until John Healey's first budget in the autumn. Then being careful that rich areas don't get richer while poor areas get poorer. There's no formula on equalising that yet. And there's no new money, nothing on how councils might plug that projected multi-billion-pound funding gap, and any tax revenue retained would replace central government grants, not supplement them.
The risk is areas might be growing for reasons entirely unrelated to what the mayors are doing, and if that's the case, you could see areas that are already doing well pulling further ahead and reinvest in that growth, and areas struggling falling behind, and I think that's the real challenge with the policy.
In short, there's still a lot to figure out in making it all work in practice. Promises, but like much of what we've seen of Mr Burnham's premiership so far, the devil is in the detail, and the detail is still a bit thin.
Counting has been taking place in what's been described as the largest by-election in British history, the race to replace Andy Burnham as Mayor of Greater Manchester. We know the turnout was low, and we've just had the first round declaration. Our North of England correspondent Claire Fallon is at the count. Claire, what's going on?
First round declaration, yes. We do not yet know who will be getting Andy Burnham's old job as the Mayor of Greater Manchester, though. I can tell you who's into the last two, because that was announced about half an hour ago now. So it is between Bev Craig, who is the Labour candidate to be Mayor, and Cyan Astley for Reform. And just to explain to you how that has happened, because clearly that would not be the case normally in a general election, for example. This election is not with the first past the post system. Instead, it's a form of proportional representation called the supplementary voting system. Essentially, that means that when people went to polling stations yesterday, they were given two picks, first choice and second choice. When they're counted, they start out with the first picks. If anyone gets more than 50%, they win. Simple. And that is what happened when Andy Burnham was elected mayor under this system. However, this time, no one got more than 50%. And so the eliminated candidates, their supplementary votes, they get added in until we get the winner. If that makes sense, I know that is convoluted, I am sorry. So this is going to be a big result. From what I'm hearing from Labour sources in this room, they are really confident that Bev Craig will have won for Labour. And also, interestingly, they're talking about her having won in areas where Reform had been performing especially well during the local elections back in May. But, I should say, no official result yet. We do not know who will be the replacement for Andy Burnham as Mayor of Greater Manchester.
Claire in Manchester, thanks very much indeed. Well, earlier I spoke to the Labour Mayor of the West of England, Helen Godwin, and the Conservative Mayor of the Tees Valley, Lord Houchin. And I started by asking him if Andy Burnham's new plan to give mayors more financial autonomy was a dream come true.
Yeah, I think devolution and the expansion of devolution is a very, very good thing. And having worked with Andy Burnham for nearly 10 years as a fellow mayor, it's unsurprising to me that he wants to double down on this. He's absolutely right to say that Whitehall doesn't have all the answers. And it's true to say that local people in my area understand what's best needed for them than central government or London or the Whitehall system.
I don't hear any caveats.
Well, the caveats are ultimately going to be in the detail. I think we need to make sure that devolution is proper devolution and that it doesn't come with strings attached. So that the things that we want to do locally, central government might not like, but that's devolution as the directly elected mayor, and I'm accountable to the people that I represent. As long as we have the ability and the flexibility to deliver what's right for local people, we'd like to see government move out the way as much as possible.
Helen Godwin, are you prepared as a Labour mayor to pick a fight with a Labour government over how you want to spend the money in your jurisdiction?
Yeah, look, I think, as you've said, Andy, up until a few weeks ago, was sitting in this seat as a mayor, and I think one of the strengths he had as a mayor reputationally was being able to go to government and make the case always for Greater Manchester, and I think he, amongst others, has coined the place before party mantra that most of us mayors kind of live and work by. So yes, if we believe that something was right for the West of England, but government had to be convinced on it, I think the new powers that we've got today enable us to have a stronger argument and to make our case kind of more convincingly than we might have been able to up until now.
Ben Houchin, when you get your slice of money after this plan comes into effect, whatever it is, maybe 10% of income tax or maybe a little bit less, do you want to have complete control over how you spend that money in your area?
The short answer is yes, of course I do, because that's what devolution is. Devolution isn't saying here's some money, but you can only spend it on A, B, and C, and you have to check with us before you do it. You can't have it both ways. And I do believe that the Prime Minister believes that principle, that if we're going to have devolution and we're going to give powers to local areas, then we also have to have the freedom to spend that money in the way that we see fit. This Prime Minister and this government have talked about trying to give people room to breathe, trying to have tackle cost of living. And one of the ways that I think that could be done for businesses and individuals is trying to give a rebate on income tax or on business rates that would make it more appealing to be able to recruit people. Just give people a little bit of breathing space.
Okay, and if Andy Burnham now turns around and says to you, Mayor Houchin, I'm sorry, you can't do that, you can't give rebates, what would you say to him then?
Well, I'd be disappointed with that, because that means that there are strings attached to devolution, and that means that actually Westminster still knows best.
They are very cognizant of other areas in the country not doing particularly well, and they might ask you to take a smaller slice of the pie in order to equalise that. Would you accept that?
Well, I think, unfortunately, given the nature of the people that I represent, I think we would be one of the net beneficiaries of it. 2% or 5% of income tax in the Tees Valley being retained compared to, say, 5% in London, you're talking potentially billions of pounds worth of difference. And that would entrench a two-tier system of mayors, which I know, again, Andy Burnham does not want to see. And so seeing that in the announcement today, that there will be a level of equalisation, prevents areas like mine from falling further behind because we haven't had the investment that we've needed by governments of both colours for the last 40 or 50 years. And
finally, Helen Godwin, is it not feasible that, despite best laid plans and Andy Burnham's very understandable and seemingly authentic, devolutionary instincts because of his history as a mayor of Manchester, that actually once he's in central government, he wants to get hold of that cash and spend it the way he thinks is right, especially when cash is tight and we've got all sorts of challenges, including defence and, who knows, possible wars down the line, that actually these best laid plans will end up being, reduced to ashes?
No, I think the speed at which this new government, led by Andy Burnham, has brought this concept to the fore, this blueprint today, demonstrates, I think, how committed he is. We know that we are integral to what happens under his leadership. And I think by setting this out so early in his premiership and making it clear, don't forget this is a cabinet statement, so that means every Secretary of State is very much on board with this. That gives us, I think, really now the impetus to go ahead.
Ben Houch and Helen Godwin, thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you.